Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about the problem with YouTube and there's potential solutions for it, but the thing is I was thinking about how I could do this in the most constructive way, and I figured that we can't really answer the problems, come up with the solutions. I can't really expect you guys to know everything that I'm talking about, especially if you're not paying attention to the kind of YouTube community news and things around this, without going through what the problems are, at least as I perceive them, um, already. And so that's what I want to do in this video, where we're going to talk about the problems, and then at some point we'll talk about the solutions, probably after the weekend. And so the first real kind of problem that I feel we're facing with YouTube at the moment is the lack of transparency, and this is a problem that kind of seeps in to every other problem that I'm going to be going over here. But the lack of transparency with YouTube, where they're not willing to talk to people, they aren't willing to deal with them directly or try and make people aware of the ins and outs of their system. Not necessarily being 100% here is everything on the table in front of you, here are all the specifics of the algorithm, here's how to cheat the system, but just the changes that they're making, why they're making those changes, why people have their videos demonetized, why people get banned, why people have videos pulled down, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, as much as banning, again, isn't actually something that I've heard all that much of. That was just me throwing that out there. But again, it's like they don't give reasons for what they're doing, why they're doing things, and so on and so forth. So that's a big problem, and obviously it's a problem for everybody. Not it's a problem for the advertisers that they are dealing with, because if YouTube isn't willing to kind of make them aware of the ins and outs of their system, then that's what led to the adpocalypse. You've got the problem where they're not communicating with creators effectively, in which case it leads creators to look to other ways of moving away from YouTube, finding other sources of income, finding other ways to work around this system, and so on and so forth, because they're not being told kind of what's coming, they're not being told how the system is working, they're not being told effectively what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong. So there's no enforcement either way, it's just this open, flat area that we're stumbling around in. And then they're not being transparent with the viewers, which is a case of, even if you're not following along with everything that's being prototyped by YouTube, all the things that they are doing, all of the things that they are doing to creators, all the things that are happening to YouTube as the result of advertisers and things like that coming in, they're not talking directly to their viewership. They are not talking directly to the people who are using the website as consumers purely. And that kind of leads to a bit of a problem, because then you have the people who aren't really paying attention to any of the big problems that potentially some of their favorite YouTubers are facing, and they're not connected with it. They don't really understand. They don't understand how these people were okay one minute and then not okay the next, just because of some ads. And it's as much you may very well have the creators communicating that to people, but you're not having the platform communicate with the people who are actually using the platform, whether it is for the case of creating or viewing purely. There's a substantial kind of silence that just sits over the whole thing. And the times when they do communicate, they are disingenuous. They demonstrate a lack of integrity when it comes to their message. And we'll get onto that in a minute. But the next thing is obviously where we're talking about monetization. It is that they don't seem to understand what they've built in regards to the way that people have based their livelihoods off their platform. And, in that regard, this is where we'll go back to some of the stuff that I've said before about how the platform isn't being treated as kind of like a comedy club or an open mic night, where they're having people in, through, and then growing in popularity, in general reputation, having more people come through looking for the same kind of break that other people got. they're not using it like that, and as a result enhancing themselves. They're kind of happy with the stable that they got when those early adopters, and now everyone else that's come after those people can get stepped on to one extent or another to service this big churning entity that they don't really know what it is, and they don't have the leadership to kind of define that vision, which is unfortunate because, as said, and as has been said by many other creators, YouTube is a great platform, and it is there's a reason why it has got so big, but it's not continuing to live up to that, which is why people are looking to either move away from the platform or further diversify. So far we've talked about kind of more of what YouTube is doing as the people and the interactions, but then what else is going on? Well, we've got the content problem, the huge content problem, where this is what spurred the adpocalypse in the first place, and that is that there is a huge amount of content on YouTube that isn't within the YouTube terms of service at all, and the YouTube terms of service are very, very open and vague anyway. But as a result, it comes down to they have gone from being far too lax to being far too aggressive, and often still finding that they're targeting the wrong people. As with the recent situation around Casey Neistat with his charity video, where he was looking to raise money to help the people who were essentially victims or were affected by the shooting in Las Vegas. That was demonetized, and yet because there is a inconsistent approach to users by YouTube, the thing that was highlighted most prominently by Philip DeFranco and H3H3 and whoever else has been the Jimmy Kimmel monologue that he did on it, which ran ads, and apparently that was because they were independently appointed ads. They were put on by Jimmy Kimmel's own kind of media team or marketing team or whatever, and yet that approach is very slanted, because it means that if you've got money, if you've got backing, if you've got corporations behind you, then you win. You win at using the platform, and you can bypass the rules and you can do whatever the fuck you want. But the normal YouTubers, the ones that actually made the platform big, the ones that are actually continuing to grow it as its own form of new media that is tackling and beating out old forms of media in numerous different areas, they're being crapped on. They're being pushed to one side in favor of just these corporations and these large collectives that are already able to support. And where then you look at the way that the content is being handled around that, you've got people like myself who, in my videos, I don't say I may very well discuss things that are harder to discuss, but I very often very kind of openly espouse for taking the moderate medium view and enabling discussion. And if not every damn video that I do, that's what I start talking about. And so as a result, I'm still seeing my videos randomly getting demonetized or moved around on their scale from day to day, depending on how hormonal the algorithm is going to be. And it's a case of, if that's happening to me, then the people who are actually doing news, the people who are actually doing exposés or discussing important topics, those people are kind of being stepped on. I've managed to find ways at times to kind of dodge around some of the algorithm's problems just by paying attention, but obviously that's in part because I've been paying attention. I've been trying to work things around in one way or another. But there are some people who maybe don't have that presence of mind, or who don't really engage with the tags and the other things because they never have, and it saw them being successful before, and as a result now they're just not seeing that same success because they have their audience. you know, it's and now they're seeing those videos getting stepped on and crushed, and that's a bit of a problem, you know. And as said, the there are two things that come out of that. One is the problem with YouTube's content filtering, you know, where in theory there should be a handful of things, you know, violence and incitement to violence that are directive, not observed. So, i.e., if you're covering a news story that's about a violent happening, then that is observed and being commented on. Not It's not a video of someone literally going in and beating the shit out of someone, or going in and opening fire on a crowd of people, or incitement to violence video like the ISIS videos that were continually being brought up around the beginning of the first adpocalypse. And then so you've got that content filtering around that. You've got the porn that's still on YouTube when you would have thought that that'd be really kind of easy to find. And you know, then arguably you've got kind of other generally kind of broken content that is things like copyright stuff. Yeah, the people that try to upload full movies without permission, or who are uploading kind of movies that are fake, that then you click on them and they try to send you to another site to a pirate version of that movie and that kind of thing. You know, those are the three kind of areas. So kind of copyright, incitement to violence, and an actual kind of non-observed violence, and the porn angle of all sorts. You know, those are the three areas that should really be focused on by YouTube in terms of its content filtering, and that's not happening, because we're seeing charity videos getting struck down, and we're seeing other videos that's talking about exactly the same thing, more pointedly even, getting praised and lifted up, and that divide between who's getting hit and who isn't. You know, it's not one rule for everyone on the platform. It's you know, whoever can work it out around YouTube, or whoever is best connected to YouTube, gets their way. And then, you know, moving on from that, we've got the various kind of other problems that we've seen around whose content is acceptable, where you've had sexual health videos and other things like that, where we talked about restricted mode a while ago, and the things that are there aren't there, the things that are being filtered out one way or the other. You know, those things that are being discussed may very well be entirely educational. They may be someone's opinion, someone's life experiences, to try and, you know, that's being put up to try and help other people, and yet those are still being struck down. They're being hidden. And again, as I said at the time, I don't really know anyone specifically who uses restricted mode, unless they've got kids. But then you've got like YouTube Kids and other things like that that are very specifically directed in that way. But again, it's like you've got these kind of interesting divides between what people are allowed to see and aren't allowed to see, and YouTube is the only arbiter. You know, the people behind the scenes who won't talk to us. And then moving on from the one rule for one person and one rule for everybody else, we've got the leadership within YouTube that I kind of want to address, because we had Susan, I can never pronounce her last name, so we'll just leave her as the CEO of YouTube, just so I don't butcher her name. But she came out and she said at one point that yes, YouTube is a place where people can be people, and that was a great comment. And it was a comment around ads as well, where targeted advertising is the best form of advertising, and you have access to very specific markets that you might not be able to find otherwise, and it's because YouTube is where people can come and be people that those advertising kind of campaigns through targeted advertising are so successful. You know, because you have such a wide, varied group of people using the platform. So she came out and said all of this. However, then she rolled out new products that are being included in YouTube, including a whole load of projects involving already famous people from old media industries who are moving on to new media. And then she started her own YouTube channel. And in her kind of intro video saying that she's doing that, she has very few big YouTubers. You've got The Rock, who's a movie star who came on and created a YouTube channel. Fair enough, but he hasn't built himself up through here. You had an Instagram model, you had a Vine, a Vine comedian, and all of these people have developed their audiences from elsewhere and then brought them to YouTube. They aren't the people that made YouTube big. They're not Philip DeFranco. They're not Markiplier or Jacksepticeye, or they wouldn't include PewDiePie anyway, considering recent controversies. But it's like he's the guy who kind of is there as a shining example of how big people can be on the platform and how easily quantified that is and how big the platform has got. And yet he wasn't there, and the number of people who were there, like I've watched numerous videos where people have addressed her video and gone, we don't even know who these people are. And then further on from that, I've seen a few people tweeting about this and a few other people bringing this up in videos. But to be a verified user on YouTube, you need to have a certain number of subscribers. The same way that you need to be nowadays, you need to have a certain number of views to be a partner, to have your videos monetized properly. And you need to have other, hit other thresholds in terms of subscribers for things like using super chat and using sponsors and using other bits and pieces here, there, and everywhere. You need to have those subscriber limits before they allow you to do it. Which again, I feel maybe is a bit daft, because if you're a small business that's using YouTube to come in and develop stuff, then you might have access to sponsors straight away from another business from outside from the stuff you've been doing before you've come to YouTube, and yet they still, because of the number of subscribers you may have and whatever else, you can't apply that. And I realise that's probably niche situations, the kind of a very limited number, but considering that there isn't an option for that, or at least not a very transparent and obvious option for that, it stands out. You've got these big corporations that can do it, but apparently the little guy who might already have those things can't. And so then we're kind of looking at that, but she doesn't have, I think she's at about 21,000 subscribers, which is strange to me anyway. But then I don't know if she's monetizing her videos or not. But then on top of that, she's already verified. And it's like, no, she should be going through the same process as everybody else. If she's there to examine the experience that her customers essentially are going through, her partners are going through, then she should be doing it all herself, working from the bottom up. And she's already earning a god knows how much money from being the CEO of YouTube. It's not like she couldn't afford to do it. She already, no doubt, has editors and access to all of the equipment and software that she would need already through YouTube. Let her do it herself. See how this all works. But she's not going to do that because she's able to fast track her way through parts of that process. And so these are the problems that I see. Yeah, and this isn't even going into the some of the other things that they've done, which other social media has done as well, where it's like they are kind of blocking outgoing links to things like Patreon and Facebook and other things like that. But then again, Facebook as well does that so that, for example, I put in my Facebook posts on the Silver Mountain page, I put up the links to these videos every day, and I know full well that by including the link to the video, they won't block the link, which is maybe a bit extreme where YouTube has started blocking things, but they will get a lower priority in kind of general representation on people's feeds unless you boost the post. And I don't do that. I don't see the point in putting money into kind of just boosting a post that I don't know whether or not it would do well on there or not. But what it comes down to is that with the way it works, obviously they don't want people clicking off their platform. They want people staying on their platform as much as possible. And that's why they've added more to things like cards and the end screen and all that kind of stuff. but it's still, that blocking. They could have been the first kind of social media to go, actually, we're encouraging business, we're encouraging more, and so what we're going to do is just leave that open. You can link to wherever. Just, we would like you to make your main focus your channel on our site, but if you need to link to elsewhere because of whatever reason, then go ahead and do it. And then on top of that as well, the adding of things that kind of make YouTube more like Twitch, for the idea of kind of sponsors, like the public sponsoring people on live streams and things like that, and the super chat stuff and all that kind of thing. It's little bits here and there that they've taken from other platforms, but it doesn't actually address any of what we've talked about already. So in summary, the problems that we've got so far tend to be the kind of slanted view of things, where they're not paying attention to what content they're filtering correctly. They're not focusing on the big three things that they need to worry about, and they're worrying about whether or not something is offensive or whether or not it's a sensitive topic or anything like that. There's too much of that. We don't need it. You slim things down and make things more specific around your guidelines if you want to tackle that kind of thing. But then again, that's not what grew your platform to what it is today. Why bother with that? We've got the issues around one rule for one person, one rule for someone else, especially in regards to large corporations or people who already have access to YouTube. We've got the issues, the issues around the various forms of demonetization, the lack of transparency, the kind of lack of communication with everybody. And then arguably we've got the lack of spine, where they will say one thing but then they will fall back on old industry, on old media, to try and bolster themselves, instead of sticking with that line of YouTube is a place where people come to be people. We're going to let them be people, and our advertising methods are the best that they can possibly be within that environment where it's targeted ads. It hunts people down and finds them and applies your advertising, your product, to that person directly based on what they want. In which case, if they had some spine, if they stuck to that, then maybe that would make a big difference. But we've got these big nebulous problems here and there around these major areas of transparency and content filtering and different standards for different people and so on and so forth. And now that we've gone through the problems themselves, the next video I want to do, which will come out beginning of next week probably, is the solutions that I see, because I've talked about some of the solutions before, but let's be specific. Let's address each one of these points that I've just made. That video will probably be more structured than this one, because here I'm just reading off my notes, but to make the solutions easy to actually make functional if anyone from YouTube is actually watching, because this experience will cater to my experience as someone that's come onto the platform recently at the very, very low end. It's representative of an awful lot of people. It's representative of people at the top and the bottom. If I'm being hit by stuff like demonetizations on videos that have no offensive content in whatsoever, and yet I'm seeing all of that happen to me at the low end when I'm kind of just rolling on through, whilst you've got people at the top end who have been relying on this for their livelihood for the longest time, seeing the same thing, then, or worse, then that's going to be horrific. It's going to be terrible for them. And so as a result, I want to go through very specifically on the solutions, instead of just reading off my notes here in brief for you guys, just to catch us all up to thinking about and talking about the same things. So I'll probably do that, run through that and address it next Monday. But otherwise, guys, let me know what you guys think, because it's a tough situation, and I've already heard from you guys before where you've told me about how insane you feel YouTube is, or the demonetizations that you've been hit by before you've even applied like the thumbnail or the metadata to it or anything like that. It's all these little things that are just a bit daft. And so it's like, let me know what you guys think about this stuff, more of your experiences, so that then that's just a greater wealth of information for me to take into consideration when I'm making these suggestions. Because again, I've worked in kind of the old media industry. I've worked in in cinemas at point of sale and point of service in a management capacity. I've worked in retail areas, and then I've kind of brought myself into presenting and doing this stuff with you guys through coaching, through the planning and chasing of solutions and advancement. And so as a result, that's what I want to apply to this. I want to apply my experience to it, and I want to apply my knowledge to it, simply because if it works better for anyone, if it works better for the people at the low end, then you're going to see this enrichment of the whole thing. You know, it's the same way that trickle down economics doesn't work. It's broken. But if you stimulate and enrich the people at the bottom, then you see growth. You know, and so that YouTube wants to make more money. YouTube wants to grow more. YouTube wants to remain the market leader. Great. Stimulate the bottom, grow your platform, make it bigger. You've only got 1 billion subscribers. There are nearly 7 billion people on the planet. Guess what? That means you've got 1/7 of the planet. Keep going. You've got more to do. But you're not going to do it if you keep alienating your creators and like ignoring the people that actually made the platform big in the first place. And then still the people who are the next generation of people who are going to come in and make the platform better, make the platform bigger, make the platform more diverse. Those people are the ones being affected and hit by all of this silly bullshit, more so than anyone like Jake Paul or any of these big YouTubers that have been there already, who may very well do stupid stuff, may very well get themselves into trouble, but at the same time, they're fine. They've already been through the hard bit. Help other people through the hard bit. But anyway, I'll get onto the full solutions and the full ideas around this in the video on Monday. So you got the weekend to come and just drop comments on this and have a chat around this, you know, in the comments down below. And as I said, I'd love to hear it so that I can take it into account when I'm coming up with that video. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video at all, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.